How's it going beyond the benches? It's your man JT here, coming at you with a video as we approach the end of the Miami Dolphins training camp period. Just one more practice tomorrow, and then it'll officially be all wrapped up. But took a little bit of a break from the video making with the summer going down and just less football and Dolphins news to talk about and other sports going on. But a couple of things I have been working on over the summer. Beyond the Benches now has its own Twitter page, which of course the great thing about Twitter is it allows me to kind of get some quick and fast thoughts out there, give you guys a little bit of more regular content that way. So if you're not following me either at JT_Evans97 or now JT_Beyond97, go check those out for sure. Beyond the Benches now has its own website, so for a lot of people that like to check it out there or maybe don't have a social media platform, I'll leave the link in the description to that website below. And of course, if you're new, go ahead, give a like, share, and a follow. I specialize in talking about the Miami Dolphins. Also love to talk about other things going on in the world of Florida sports. So if you're interested in that, definitely stay tuned. A lot more videos coming over the fall as we get into some exciting times. But here for this video, training camp has been going down, as I mentioned, for the Miami Dolphins. So I'm going to talk about 6 positives and 6 negatives. Of course, with football, I love to use a top 6 list because, you know, touchdown 6 just makes it easy, gives me one more than just doing 5, right? So I'm going to talk about, again, 6 positives, 6 negatives. And since this is, a rebuilding season, something that at best a lot of people know is a work in progress, probably, not that there isn't still hope and aspirations, and there definitely should be with all the changes the Dolphins have made, but I know a lot of people kind of understand where the team is at this point. It was a much needed, complete rebuild, restart, so it's all about building from the ground up. So with that, I'm going to start with the positive and end on the negatives so we can kind of end on what the team needs to improve, continue to work on, because that's really the overall theme, I think, of this season, is trying to build something other than maybe a team that you already kind of have expectations for and think should go to, playoffs and Super Bowls and stuff like that. The Dolphins have kind of taken a step back, trying to build something long term. But as far as the positives, my first one would be the linebackers stepping up, and this has been a whole host of guys. And with this new defense that has a base of a 3-4, which is of course is 4 linebackers, but it really can go anywhere from 2, 3 to 4 linebackers on a certain play if they're going nickel formation. But they are a lot of times the most important people. There's so many job responsibilities, especially when you look at that New England Patriots style defense. Usually they'd have a run stopping linebacker, a blitzing linebacker after the quarterback, a linebacker that can cover wide receivers. Linebackers and cornerbacks are the most important positions, so to hear a lot of good things. Sam Eguavoen, if you haven't heard that name before, you're not new to the list, but a Canadian football star who has come into camp and just taken over. He's earned starting minutes and responsibilities right up there with guys like Kiko Alonso and Raekwon. He's having an excellent practice and really feels like he could be maybe that middle linebacker that does a lot of the coverage responsibilities throughout the year. Kiko Alonso has not had a bad camp as well. He's a veteran at this point. You would hope he does at least pretty well at this stage. But Raekwon McMillan and Jerome Baker seem to both have taken huge steps from their basically rookie seasons last year. It was Jerome's rookie season. Raekwon missed his rookie season, of course, with that ACL injury. So last year was his first year playing. But they both have taken step forwards, especially Jerome Baker. This guy is just doing it all. Every practice, he's getting so much praise, getting after the quarterback. He can also get out and cover. A lot of people expect he will also be one of the team captains, as he's been one of the biggest voices and motivators in the locker room as well. Just a fun guy that comes out, does a lot. The Dolphins' social media page is taken very kindly to him. They post videos of him all the time, just kind of smiling, joking around, having a good time. But as far as play on the field, that's no joke. This guy's killing it as well. So to hear such an important position for this particular defense doing well, very positive. Also, Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant have been practicing. Now, that may not sound like anything special, but again, Albert Wilson had a serious hip injury that ended his year last year, and of course, Jakeem Grant had an Achilles tear. So 2 pretty serious injuries, especially for speed guys, but they have both been out there practicing. I think Albert Wilson took about 1 day off, maybe just trying to keep him fresh and get new, again, coming back from the injury. But it's good that, these guys aren't starting the season rather on an injury reserve list or on some kind of pitch count. They're really out there doing their thing. Running backs have also gotten a lot of praise, particularly Kalen Balaj and Kenyon Drake. After that, it has been a bit lacking, but for the 1-2 punch that you have in the short term, a lot of people have said a lot of good things. Kalen Balaj has apparently bulked up, put on a lot of more muscle and good weight there. He seems like he could be a hard, tough runner. And then this also includes fullback Chandler Cox, which is going to be something different for Miami Dolphin fans who haven't seen that fullback position the past few years. Not the way that Chad O'Shea wants to run his offense. He drafted this guy for a reason. When you look at just the Patriots, and I don't think they're going to, probably do this exactly the same way, but they used their starting fullback last year on 33% of the plays, literally 1/3 of their plays. So good to see that Chandler Cox is embracing that role of the fullback for this team, because it certainly will probably be in use. Also, my fourth positive, Xavier Howard playing well, out of his mind. Literally the last 4 practices, this guy's had an interception in every single one of them. And that's obviously good because, you paid Xavier Howard to be your top tier cornerback, your shutdown guy, and maybe if anything, to really get a little bit better and continue to improve. But obviously, one concern when you hand out these massive contracts, well, guys, even if it's subconsciously, will they get complacent? Will they maybe take it a little bit easy now that they've earned that huge payday? Doesn't seem to be the case for Xavier Howard at all, which is obviously great. I think the Dolphins, really did him a favor. They kind of did right by him by paying him big money before they really had to, and now I feel like he wants to do right by the Dolphins by continuing to give his best out there on the field. Next, we have just simply the fact that it is a different culture. The number one theme from reporters and fans who have been at these practices is it's totally different than from when they went to Adam Gase training camps, right? And that's really what you want to do. Now, sometimes, you can be a bit careful of that, because one mistake I think in football is sometimes when a coach or a system gets fired, you'll see the team go in the 180% opposite direction, and sometimes different isn't necessarily better. But for now, no games can be played. We can't test the Brian Flores system, so you want something that at least feels new and different. I talked about the defensive scheme and how different that's going to look, but just a more serious disciplinary attitude and mindset. Brian Flores continues to drill home in press conferences that it's about being a smart, disciplined football team that can just kind of limit its own mistakes. I wrote about on Beyond the Benches page about the TNT wall, literally, kind of like the high school equivalent of running laps, right? They get sent to this wall, a lot of, fundamental quotes and things like that, motivational quotes, but of course they run over there, they do push-ups, and that's when they make those mental mistakes. So again, it's much more disciplined as far as an Adam Gase training camp, which used to be a lot more loose and about the finesse and trying to, be more athletically superior to your competition and worrying about speed and stuff like that. 180 difference here. So for now, again, until you can kind of put these theories and beliefs to the test in games, that has to be a positive. And then lastly, just simply put, everybody staying healthy. No major injuries, nobody out for the year, nobody's going to miss training camp. There's been a few guys who, they've gotten their nicks and bruises here, sat out of a practice or two, but nothing serious. And that's really the best positive you can have through training camp, through preseason. Just let these guys stay healthy, give fans a chance to watch them, see these young players and what they could be for this team long term. And then, of course, when the regular season comes, you want to be as healthy as possible to give yourself that best chance of winning. So now, moving on to the negatives, though. I've been very positive for now. Now it's time to focus on these negatives. And the first one has to just get this out of the way. The quarterback struggles and the situation there. Obviously, I think the dream scenario is that at some point, sooner rather than later, Josh Rosen could step up and win that job, and you can see what he is and what he can be. Now, he can't just be far behind Fitzpatrick and you just hand it to him, because that's not going to go over well at all with the locker room, and I just don't think you do, the rest of your team any service that way. But there has been some times of very serious struggle for Josh Rosen, especially the day that actually, and maybe this has something to do with it, that Brian Flores announced that Fitzpatrick seemed clearly the starter. Rosen came out that day and just bombed in practice. Everybody was all over him, talking about his worst one, multiple interceptions, multiple balls on the ground through fumbles, missing just simple stationary passes to coaches and stuff like that. But he did come back in the last 2 days. A lot of people talked about how he had won the last 2 days of training camp. But even then, a lot of those people mentioned that it really was more of a default situation with Ryan Fitzpatrick now being the one to struggle. And as you would imagine, knowing who Fitzpatrick is, he's had great days of practices, he's had bad days of practices. So at the top situation, you have a veteran quarterback who is smart and can do a lot of good things, but is inconsistent even in practices. And the younger quarterback just hasn't really seemed to find his footing yet. And, obviously, I think there's a lot more time for patience with this organization right now at this position than, say, with years of Tannehill and, can he be the guy kind of talks. But at the end of the day, you'd like to see a lot more positive, I think, out of the quarterback position. Number 2 isn't really a negative as much as it's just kind of a slight concern or maybe a warning. But I think it does sound like they're maybe being a little too New England style dependent, right? A little bit too much sticking to what they did in New England. And obviously, I'm not trying to argue about that. Coaches have their philosophies and beliefs, and it's hard to argue against the New England style. But at the same time, you don't have the same players. Most of the time, you're not going to even get the same players ever that you had over in New England. So you can't, 100% of the time be that. So it's, defense, I understand, is a little bit different. I think they're going to pretty much be a copy and paste situation, but especially on offense, maybe we'd like to see a few, Chad O'Shea and Jerry Kaplinsky and those guys who are now in charge of that, maybe take a few more of their own liberties and chances and, hearing about a few more unique qualities to them. As opposed to a lot of times with situations, even with the wide receivers, the way they line up, even with the fullback situation, which I'm excited about, a lot of things that are very, very similar to what they did over in New England. So again, just try to be careful. I don't think, you can't expect to be somebody else. You got to be your own person a little bit of the time. Another negative would be the young cornerback. So I talked about Xavier Howard. Behind that, the young quarterbacks have struggled. Minka's been put at a quarterback position probably just to bail him out a little bit because he's obviously just so incredibly talented. But guys like Jalen Davis and Cornell Armstrong have been picked on and not doing very well in training camp. And ultimately, you got to find a second cornerback to step up. Eric Rowe has done a pretty good job, but he's also a veteran at this point. You would like somebody who maybe has a little bit more of long-term promise. And some of these young guys that, like Quadrius Tankersley, who you drafted in the 3rd round, you'd like to see a lot more production from him at this point in his career than what you've gotten. And that kind of leads me to another one, which is former draft picks still kind of remain quiet. Charles Harris at times has not looked good. He continues to kind of look like a bust, to be quite honest. Mike Gesicki, who you drafted at tight end, is not even winning the tight end battle. Nick O'Leary is. And again, you drafted him in the 2nd round a few years ago. I mentioned Quadrius Tankersley. And now with Chris Greer, fully in charge of the draft, at other points we were told he was the main voice in the draft, but he still had, Mike Tannenbaum breathing out his neck, making choices, Adam Gase to worry about, who obviously, as we're seeing in New York, loves to make personnel decisions and put himself in a position of power. So now he's got full control of the draft, and that's got to be the one thing that's got to get away. Not everybody you draft is going to be a star, going to be a stud, but especially guys you draft in the 2nd, 3rd, 1st round, these kind of guys, you got to get at least quality players, quality role players, if not starters and studs. So again, need a lot less of these draft picks that then end up going quiet for 4 years and then they get cut and they never amounted to anything. Number 5 rather, for negatives would be lots of errors and penalties. I mentioned that TNT wall earlier. It has been in heavy use. Fitzpatrick's been sent there. Rosen's been sent there. Offensive line, defensive players have all been sent there. Coaches have been sent there. A coach got fired for lack of communication and lack of growth and development on the offensive line. So there has been plenty of errors and mistakes, and it's not the end of the world, again, because it's a rebuilding team, a lot of new pieces, a lot of young, unproven guys out there. Mistakes are going to happen, but it's something that is one thing the first week or 2 of training camp. By the time we get into the preseason, especially the regular season, you hope that stuff kind of clears itself and goes away, and you hear a lot less reports of penalties and fumbles and practices. And then lastly, the offensive line struggles. It's so bad, it got a coach fired before the season could even start. So that only goes to show you, Laramie Tunsil's obviously killing it. We know this. We know he's one of the best young left tackles in the game at this point, but that's just one of your 5 offensive linemen. You need more guys, and a few guys have started to kind of step up and be a little bit decent. Draft pick this year, Michael Dieter, Jesse Davis, who's been on the team now for a few years, heard a few good positive things about them, but you need more guys to step up. If you're going to give not just Fitzpatrick, but more importantly, Rosen a chance to succeed, you're going to need this offensive line to come together and play better. And maybe it's not the most talented in the league, but at least if it can be cohesive and work well and have good team chemistry, and maybe now with the new coach, you get a better offensive line system in there. That's going to be crucial for this team moving forward. So there you go, 6 positives, 6 negatives. I think just about anything I could share with training camp, I knocked out for you guys in this video. And I'm very excited for preseason coming along. Just about a little over, I think 8 days before the first Miami Dolphins preseason game. I will be in attendance for a practice and the week 2 preseason game when the Dolphins come down, actually come up here to Tampa Bay, I should say. So that'll be great. Very excited to check out the team in person then. Let me know if you guys have any more questions from training camp and what you guys thought about this video. And go check out Beyond the Benches on all of our platforms. Love you guys and see you next time.